Now our second subtitle, the dermal bones or the membrane bones. After the chondrocranium, the membrane bones or dermal bones, we start with, first we draw this initial diagram. At this side of the board we will draw the diagram in which we will draw a small segment of the squamous portion of frontal bone. So this will be the frontal bone, small portion. Next bone which we will draw will be the parietal portion. So here we will draw the parietal end of the bone in this manner. Third which we will draw will be the interparietal segment, and this will be the interparietal segment of occipital bone. And the fourth segment which we will draw here will be the squamous portion of the temporal bone. So therefore this will be the squamous portion of temporal bone. And I will give the nomenclature inside only. I will just write this name, squamous portion of oblique temporal bone. This will be known as the frontal bone. This will be known here as the parietal bone, and this will be known as the interparietal. It is a part of occipital bone. So therefore these four segments will develop from the membrane bones initially, first. Now what we have to understand in this segment will be, here all these four segments, the parietal bone will fuse with these bones, and at the four different corners of parietal bone there will be unossified membranous gap, and those unossified membranous gap, which I will put blue color, these unossified membranous gaps will be known as fontanelles. They will be known as the fontanelles. So therefore these blue colored structures which I have drawn here, they are unossified membranous gap, and they will be known as fontanelles. Name of those fontanelles will be, this will be known as the anterior fontanelle, this will be known as posterior fontanelle. Then there will be two pairs. One pair will be right and left anterolateral fontanelle, other pair will be posterolateral fontanelle, right and left. So altogether there will be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6 fontanelles. And these fontanelles will be at the corners of parietal bone. Now, regarding fontanelles, these fontanelles are unossified membranous gap-like structures, and they are present in fetal skull. So what will they do? Number one, they will allow in the growth of the brain in the postnatal life, where they allow ample amount of space, and because of these fontanelles, the growth of the skull bones and the growth of the underlying brain will also take place. And number two, very important function of these fontanelles will be, they will allow in molding of the skull bones during parturition, during the delivery of the fetus through the narrow birth canal. So because of this molding of the skull bones will overlap each other without damaging the brain. That is why these fontanelles are present. And last segment will be these fontanelles. When will they close? All the fontanelles except this anterior fontanelle present between parietal bone and frontal, which is also known as, it will be known as bregma. And this anterior fontanelle will close around 2nd to 3rd year after birth. And the remaining fontanelles, anterolateral, posterolateral and posterior fontanelle present between occipital and the two parietal bones, which is known as lambda, which all these fontanelles will close by 3rd or 4th month after birth. So these are the points about fontanelles. And remember, these fontanelles are present at the four different corners of parietal bone. Now, the dermal bones, the membrane bones will include these fontanelles. And which are the membrane bones? The following are the membrane bones which will help in the development of neurocranium. And what are those membrane bones? Number one, frontal bone, the squamous portion of the frontal bone, the main front in the anterior segment. Number two, parietal bone. Number three, squamous portion of temporal bone. And number four, the interparietal part of occipital bone. So therefore, these are the four segments of membranous bones which will help in the development of neurocranium. Up till here, we finish our neurocranium, that is the membrane bones, neurocranium. Now we will fill up these three spaces so that we will get an idea about how the cartilaginous bones are coming. If I fill this space here with the elisphenoid, and if I find the elisphenoid over here, this purple color is the elisphenoid which will develop into greater wing of sphenoid. So this is the portion where elisphenoid is present in norma lateralis. Remember, this view is norma lateralis. So therefore, here if I draw, this will be the greater wing of sphenoid, cartilaginous from the which portion of the cartilage? Elisphenoid. Then we come back here. At this level, here we will fill with periaortic cartilage, blue color, periaortic cartilage, which will develop into petromastoid segment, which will develop into the petromastoid segment. So here I am drawing this blue color periaortic cartilage, and this will develop into petromastoid part of temporal bone. And then finally, this petromastoid part of temporal bone will also extend just below the squamous portion of temporal bone. It will also extend just below the squamous portion of temporal bone. So here also we will just extend this petrous portion of temporal bone at this point, and this will complete the cartilaginous segment which will articulate with the membrane bones in norma lateralis. Now we will come across to splanchnicranium, where my hand is there. This is the place where we have to draw splanchnicranium, that is the bones of the facial skeleton. And the bones of the facial skeleton, we will complete it over here, where they will fuse with these bones which are coming from the membrane as well as the cartilages. But these bones are coming from neurocranium. So what portion we have finished here? Neurocranium and its two subdivisions. Those two subdivisions are the chondrocranium and the membrane bones. Now coming up in the next segment will be our next topic, the splanchnicranium.